Hello and welcome to today's episode of Silk and Soil. I am so happy and grateful that you are here. Now today is pretty much like a follow-on from last week where I talked about the womb as a compass and really getting to know and listen to your womb space. And I've mentioned in that last week in the podcast that I'll be doing a separate podcast just about like the different phases and how to really work with them, which is what we're doing today. And before I dive into all of these different phases and the average and what the book says, I just want to start off with number one, you understanding and knowing that all of our cycles are different to start with. None are by the book. I don't think I've ever seen one that is by the book. And number two, it's really important that you start tracking your cycle. And when I say track your cycle, I don't mean just, oh, this is day one, this is day two, here I bled and here maybe I ovulated. If that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about pretty much absolutely everything. If we think about the womb, going back to last week, think about it as your energetic center. So when I say tracking, yes, by all means, obviously track your bleed and your ovulation. But I'm really talking about tracking your feelings, your emotions, all of the things thoughts that come up, because all of these things form a pattern. And I say this all the time. We may think that, oh yeah, I remember I had a headache then, or I remember I had this thought then. I can guarantee you will not. Unless you have a photographic memory, you will not remember that. And I say this with all of the love because I used to think that, and I still sometimes think that, even though I track, and then, oh, of course I forget. Life happens, right? So this is really the beginning of it all. It's just you simply taking a few minutes a day, like I do it at the end of the day. You can do it anytime during the day, and just sort of write down your thoughts, how you felt emotionally. If there's anything that happened, I write down all of the physical symptoms, especially now that I'm in my perimenopause phase, just so that I can gather data, essentially. That's what it's about. Once you have the data and have the data for a few months, for a few cycles, you can then start seeing a pattern. And you can start working with that pattern. And it's going to make things a lot easier, and you're going to start understanding your cycle and yourself a lot better. And that's what I wanted to start off with. The cycle itself, if you go by the book, it's usually said to be 28 to maybe 30 days long. And as I say, this is by the book. My cycles are usually 24, sometimes 25 days. They average out at 24 days. I can pretty much guarantee if I have a cycle that's 25 days long, either the next one or the one after that is going to be 23 days, just to even it out again to 24 days. It's just how my cycle works. So all of the sort of things that I tell you, all of the phases, because they come with sort of days attached to it, the number of days. Number one, they're not equal. They're sort of, I don't want to say fluctuate, but it's not equally divided into 4. So my 24 days, not that I can divide that by 4 anyway, but some like my actual winter, so my menstruation phase is shorter than some of the others phases, and that's why you also, it helps like really tracking, and also your energy. Actually, when you're tracking, check your energy levels. Like, see how did you feel? Were you low on energy? Were you high on energy? Were you just like blah, like yeah? However it makes sense for you to track, because that will give you an inkling of what phase you're actually in. And so, yes, that's what I sort of, I guess, forgot at the beginning. But as I say, like a normal by the book cycle is between 28 and 30 days long. If you don't know how long your cycle is, or it fluctuates a lot, again, just track. If it fluctuates, there's gonna be like reasons for that. I'm not a doctor, so I can't, or like I'm not a specialist in that sort of sense. So I would suggest to consult someone that it's their specialty. But I just really want to give you sort of like an overview of those 4 phases, because even though for me I know all of them, and to me I know I generally know what phase I'm in, I also know that for a lot of women that might not be, like, they might not know, which is why I felt like this episode to be like really, really important just to share. And even if you know the phases, there's gonna be a lot of like wisdom and like knowledge within this transmission itself. So even if you know it, just come and listen. Come, just have your favorite drink. I'm currently having the end of a coffee. Yes, I do drink coffee. And it's actually one of my favorite drinks. If I could drink it all day, I probably would. But I want to sleep at night, so I don't. Okay, so let's really dive in. So let's, forgetting almost like the length of your cycle, let's start on day 1, which is your menstruation, which is like your inner winter. So we have obviously what it's actually called, and then we have almost like, it's like the seasons, like our seasons that we have in the year. And we've this, your menstruation is like your inner winter, is where you like really go like inward, like you reflect, you obviously bleed, so there's a lot of letting go. And because of that, there is, our body needs a lot of rest. And but that I don't mean like lay in bed all day and rest. If you can, great, do that. But this is one of the sentences that always really used to wind me up, because I'm just like, either I was working, or I was then pregnant. Not pregnant because I wasn't bleeding then, that's a whole different scenario. I had my little daughter, and I was like, I can't. I was like, she's like 4 years old now. She's just like a little whirlwind. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know she's. I share a lot, I think. Probably not actually that much, but I share a lot, like that she has a lot of energy, and I can't just lay in bed all day. She'd go up the walls. So rest in ways that works for you. So for me, a lot of times that means I have an early night, or I make sure I don't have too many social engagements. I personally don't do any one-to-one calls. I try to like really pull back on work. And we all have like different lives and different priorities. So just see where you can give your body like a little bit more rest for it just to release, because it's going through a lot of things internally just by like releasing all of the blood. And it's all about also like a lot of people say like long sleeps, like sleeping a lot more, but again, if you can't, you can't. So there is just like making it work really for you. And like your inner winter, your menstruation is like a really good time to like journal and journal deep and not censor yourself. That's what I was looking for. Don't censor yourself. Just let it like come out, whatever needs to come out, because your inner winter is all about shedding. It's like letting go of like the versions that doesn't serve you in this moment anymore. And like our menstrual cycle is literally our monthly like mini death and rebirth cycle. And your inner winter, your menstruation, that's your death part of it. So you're letting go of absolutely everything. It is said, and I say that, that during your inner winter, your intuition is like really high. And it's like your inner winter is really about like surrendering to what is. And again, just letting that go, letting the death, like death sounds always really horrible, but that's not what I mean. Like letting all of those layers just die off and just surrender to what is. It's also a really good time for self-care. And if you are checking in with your womb, this is a really good time, number one, to actually ask your womb space to what it wants to release with this bleed, what needs to go. And it's just really good, just generally, just to connect, especially in this time during your bleed, connect to your womb space in whatever way it works for you. I mean, I'd always say like connect to your womb space pretty much more or less every day, but again, like reality of things, right? And especially when you're just starting out, that might not really happen. But this is like your like little retreat into yourself, like where you almost pull back from the world before you emerge, and you pull back to shed everything. Like you shed the blood, you shed the different layers. I actually just forgot what all of those layers are called. I do know it, but I forgot. So I'll just move on. And it's also really a good time just to have some self-care. I mean, self-care is always a good time, right? But especially because your body is going through so much, and your energetic center, like energy-wise, you are releasing energy as well. So it is a really good space for you just to check in and just see what wants to be released, what like conditioning, maybe what preconceptions, what stories, what limiting beliefs want to be like released here. And this phase is about 1 to 7 days long. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you bleed all of those days either. You have some other days, like crossover days, where you cross over into like the next phase. But I think I'll definitely do a separate podcast on that, considering I've already been talking about for 15 minutes and we're only on phase 1. And again, like just notice, because you will notice when the energy starts to pick up. So on day 1, like I can actually feel it before it starts, because my energy just drains. And I know, okay, this is my point. Like it's essentially, I cross over time, so I can feel it. Apparently, I can't talk today. I can really feel like the energy draining, and this is why it's so important for us to also like journal down or note down our energy and how we feel. So that's the sort of first 1 to 7 days. Like for me, it's usually about 4-ish days. But again, this is why you need to track it. That's why I'm all about tracking. We then go from our inner winter, we go into our inner spring, which is the follicular phase, which then technically is days 8 to 14. So if you have like days 1 to 7, you then go from day 8 to 14 to about halfway through, which is when your energy really starts picking up. And this is a time when we can quite often almost go too early, where we feel like as women, like, oh yeah, my energy is starting to pick up, so let's just go. And this is where we have to like hold ourselves almost back a little bit and just really nurture the energy that's picking up. And you usually notice your creativity picking up, and your creativity, like your energy, and I can always feel like there's like a little bubbling, like, you know, that spring-like feeling that you get when you like almost like a long deep winter and you get like that spring-like feeling. That's what I get. And again, this is like different for everyone. I'm just giving you like an overview of what it is and give you some insights to how I feel it essentially. And like the spring phase, like the follicular phase, is all about like awakening again, like opening up, just noticing what wants to come through and start to express yourself. So in terms of like your energy center, start looking at or asking your womb space, like, what, now that we shed all of these things, like what wants to come through now? What wants to awaken with me? And just really like note that down. This is not necessarily a time to, traditionally at least, not a time to take action. This is just like really just almost like getting it all out. Just like planning it, writing it all down. Because like within springtime, the energy is still like mellow, just like calm. It is rising, but it's obviously not as like resting and as deep as winter. So we're going into a lighter time within spring, within the follicular phase, but we're not going like full pelt yet, by no means. So it's a lot of like writing down, like putting your ideas down, not necessarily even like plan it all out, but like just getting it all out and just really like connecting to yourself. It's like, what wants to come through right this moment? What does this cycle, how am I going to use this cycle almost to like build that next layer of me, or just to like peel it back? Because what we shed within the winter time, we then just but we shed that part that we haven't like, that doesn't suit us anymore, it's not us anymore. And now there is time to like really nurture what is actually us. So it's almost like peeling back the layer here of like, who is the me that wants to emerge, that wants to awaken here? Who is that person? And it's all of like this lovely like spring energy. And I very much like, if, as I said, for me it's very much like being like in our actual season energy of spring. It's like, oh yeah, I can feel alive. I can feel all of that. I want to move. I want to be like playful and all of these things. And I just want to enjoy like the light days and all of those things. And then, yeah, that is from day 8 to 14. And then we move into summer. So summer is usually from day 15 to 21. And that is our ovulation phase. So obviously, if you and I, if you're trying to get pregnant, that is the time. That's when you get pregnant. And this is like, generally speaking, and I do say that because it's not necessary for me, but it's generally speaking a time of high energy. Like, you are like wired, you're powerful, you feel strong, you feel sexy, you most likely have a high sex drive, you take action. It's like, really, if you think of summer again within the actual season of our year, you sort of think of like abundance, like sunshine, as I say, like powerful, you feel strong, you feel like full of action. And this is really where you start taking the action. So all of the build up from like your winter into your springtime, where you've shedded, you've written down, like you've explored what version or what wants to emerge. In summer, it's the time to actually take the action. And like, it can sometimes, I guess, feel really, really overwhelming, because you might think, oh, there is just so much action to take. But what I encourage you to do is, when you're connecting to your womb space during this time, it's just checking in to see what action you actually should be taking. Because there's a huge difference between the action that my head is telling me to do and the action that my energetic center is telling me to do. So it's always about checking in what your energetic center, your womb space, is really telling you, rather than your head. Because yes, your head is like, it's giving you all of the strategies, the things that you should be doing, but the things that you should be doing might not be aligned with that version that is trying to emerge. I hope that makes sense. And yes, with the summer, obviously, like the long days and like lots of energy, like for some reason I see like running around in a field, like it's that kind of energy. Like, that is really the generally speaking, the highest point of your energy within your cycle. And as I just said, like for me, for example, it's really not. I feel like my cycle, like the way that I feel within my cycle, is almost back to front. And I'll go through the last phase, and I'll actually go into that as a separate thing. So from your summer, which is 15 to 21 days, we then go into your inner autumn, your luteal phase, which is, generally speaking, days 22 to 28. And this is where your energy starts to decline again. Because we're going towards winter, we're going towards the shedding again. So this is often a time when we are emotional. We need a lot more grounding. It's, especially after the high of the summer, it can almost feel like a real calm down. And what a lot of like women sort of try to do is just like, oh, I need to quickly get this done before I go into my winter phase. So it's almost like they are jumping energetically the autumn altogether. And for me, I love the autumn. To be fair, I love all of the different parts of the seasons. But I love the autumn with like the crisp leaves and just like slowing down a little bit more and just like cooler and just like sort of snuggling up, essentially. And this is where we energetically also starting to release, just like the leaves drop from the trees. In our inner winter, we start to release. Again, we start to release. It's almost like the pre-work, or we release anything that is still lingering from this cycle. So it can be either or, depending on, you know, what you've almost like gone through within that cycle. But like if you sort of think of your inner autumn, it is all about like slowing down again, like warm foods, like lovely walks outside, like wrapped up, not winter yet, but like crunchy leaves under the foot. That's the sort of energy. That's literally what I feel, what I imagine it to be. And that's the energy that our body feels as well. And that's the energy that we really should be working with. So if you are checking in with your energetic center here, it's really about asking, like, what is there, anything lingering from this cycle that I need to release? Is there anything that wants to be released right this moment? Is there maybe any emotions that come up, if you're feeling very emotional, that want to be released? And then from then you go back into your inner winter, start at day 1 again with your menstruation. And like, as I just said, when it was, I think, in summer, like, I feel like my like cycle is a little bit back to front, the way that I personally feel through it. And I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't be tracking everything. So as I said in the beginning, number one, my cycle is 24 days long. So it is roughly, 6, 12, 18, 24, yeah. So you can clearly tell how my brain works. So roughly the phases are about 6 days every phase. Though I know like my inner winter is slightly shorter. But like my inner winter is like I really retreat. I really go inward. If I could, I would just lay for 5-6 days on this freaking sofa and like just reflect and do nothing and just rest. If I could, I would. Well, actually, I say that. Probably not, because there probably would be too much resting. I wouldn't even know what to do. Within my inner spring, I can feel the energy rising. I'm currently like in my follicular phase, and I can feel like the energy rising. I can feel like the creativity come back. I think that is pretty much for me, quote unquote, by the book. Apart from obviously the number of days, but in terms of the way that you almost like should feel, or by the book, that's pretty much how I feel. It then gets like really interesting for me, because the second half of my cycle is just so not. So within your inner summer, so when you ovulate, you are almost meant to like really have like high energy and just like go. And for me, that's really not the case. It's almost like within spring, it just starts to plateau. And as a matter of fact, there is like, on the day that I ovulate and the day after, I feel crap. I just feel absolutely rubbish. And I know, without even checking anything, that I've ovulated. I was like, oh yeah, it's like, I'm on day whatever. That makes perfect sense. The same as like in the beginning of my cycle, and I actually have to double check, that might actually be on my crossover day. I have like really doubtful days where I just want to like outsource my power, essentially. I just want to tell someone to tell me what to do, like, and all of the things. And that's just how it is. But I've recognized the pattern, so I can work with that. So I don't do that. I don't invest on those days, on that day. On that day, I will not invest in anything, because I know it's not coming like from me. It's more like my hormones and everything. But within my summer, yeah, as I said, it's I'm not as high energy as I guess you would expect if you go by the book. And as I say, I have like that, almost like that drop afterwards, like when I'm ovulating, where it's like, nah, I can feel it. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it in my like energy, like my mood and everything. And then we've got like the luteal phase, the autumn phase for me, which up until last month, I absolutely loved. I'm like really creative in that time, like really creative. Like a lot of content gets created there. I get a lot of ideas there. And I guess it's because I'm letting go and like releasing certain things. And with like the hormones because the hormones, we've got estrogen and progesterone, yeah, that's the one, which rise in like your ovulation phase. And then if you don't get pregnant, they just dramatically drop in your luteal and your inner autumn. If you're pregnant, that they stay high. And this whole chart, like this whole phase, is just nonsense anyway, if you're pregnant. But if you're not pregnant, those hormones like dramatically drop. And like last month, like I could, with my perimenopause, I could really feel I was really affected by it. So last month I really hated the luteal phase. I'm not gonna lie, I really struggled through that. But again, I very quickly, because I know my cycle so well, I very quickly like realized it was because of that drop in the hormones. Because like once I hit like went towards my inner winter, I was fine again. It was like literally a week where I just like, it was horrible. Go back to the episode of perimenopause is a mirror of your life a few episodes ago. Listen to that if you're interested in that. I'll share all of it in there. But like my inner autumn phase, generally speaking, is like I fully love it. I'm just it's almost like for me like the best phase out of all of them. I feel like the best almost. So and this I'm sharing this because it's, even though what I share today is like, yes, by the book you know, generally speaking, you should be feeling XYZ. Your energy should be XYZ. But it might not be. And this is why it's so important to really track your own cycle, your own symptoms, your own feelings, your own emotions, your own energy levels. And then, as I say, like after a few months, you'll be able to see patterns. And even if you can't, someone else will be able to. And this is why, like when I work with my clients, like regardless of where they are in their life, I get them to track their cycle. And then they can share it with me if they want to. If they don't, that's fine. But I get them to track their cycles just so that we can really work with all of these things and go a lot deeper on certain areas of what needs to be released, and really can work with that monthly death and rebirth cycle that we all go through as women. I feel like this transmission is complete now. There's honestly nothing else that wants to come through at this moment in time. I hope you like enjoyed this, you got some wisdom from it, you got some insights from it. And if there's only one one takeaway that I want you to have is track your cycle. You're not going to remember. And I personally say track it on paper. Don't track it with apps. I mean, I track my like bleed with an app, and that's it. Everything else is on paper. And because there is just something different, and that might be because am I a millennial? I'm pretty sure I'm a millennial still. I never know. Clearly that says a lot. But I just love paper. There's just something to it, and especially if you're working with your cycle. Personally, I'd say write it down on paper. I'm a big fan of notebooks, so maybe have a separate notebook for that if that feels right. But yeah, that's, if you have one takeaway, do that, because all of our cycles are so different. Yes, what I've shared here today is like by the book. It's like the standard, quote unquote, what it's meant to be. But you are human. You are so unique, and so is your cycle. So if you like really want to connect to your truth, to your body, to your wisdom, that's where we start. And that's where I would like you to start today. Regardless of where you are in your cycle, start today. And what better excuse to buy a new notebook, hey? All right. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would be ever so grateful if you could share it with anyone that might need to know about this. And I will talk to you next week. Until then, bye.